All right, well, we're going to pick up where we left off with, we finished up the simple tab, which showed a 5-week moving average forecast, a 3-week moving average forecast. We calculated our mean absolute deviation, our mean absolute percent error, and our tracking signal for both of those forecasts. And now what we want to do is we want to move on to the next question for this analytics exercise. And it basically is, hold on just a second, we're going to answer question 2, where we use a simple exponential smoothing model to test 2 alpha values. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to add in a new sheet, right? And according to our directions, we need to rename that sheet EXP Smoothing. So we're going to rename it EXP Smoothing. Okay, and I think the easiest way to set up and do this is just going to be take what we did for our simple and copy and paste it over onto the exponential smoothing. And so then basically what we'll do is we'll change our forecasting approach. So we're going to clear our content here, and we're going to clear our content here, which is where we calculated those 2 different types of forecasts, where we did the 5-week and the 3-week. And we'll change this top one to be a exponential smoothing and I'm going to put alpha is equal to, and then I'm going to go to a different cell and put 0.2, okay? And I can copy and paste that over what we're going to do for the where we had the 3-week forecast before, and in this case we're going to do an alpha of 0.4, okay? So I'm going to show you then, if I'm going to create this exponential smoothing forecast, one of the things that I wanted to point out is that your text tells us that for the alpha of 0.2, we should use the previous 3 weeks for the first week's forecast. So I'm going to go in here for the Atlanta, and I'm going to do function average, and I'm going to use the previous 3 weeks for Atlanta. Okay. And what I also want to point out is that for the exponential smoothing of alpha is equal to 0.4, we're asked to use the previous 5 weeks. So I'm going to do function average, and we're going to do that first week's forecast is going to be the average of the previous 5 weeks. Okay. And so again, I just want to make sure that you're consciously aware that in the 0.2, right, we're using the previous 3 weeks, and in the 0.5, we're using the previous 4 weeks. All right. So now that I've done that, then I can go on to the second week, and I can create the formula, which is going to see, if you look in the textbook, the formula for simple exponential smoothing says that you are going to take the forecast from the previous time period, and you're going to add to that alpha times the difference between the actual and the previous time period minus the forecast from the previous time period. Okay? And that being said, then that means that my forecast is going to be 39.9. Okay? And so let's do the same thing individually for Boston, and then we'll just copy the formulas across. Okay? So I'm going to say then for Boston, my first time period's forecast should be the previous 3 weeks. So I'm going to go function, average. The previous 3 weeks for Boston are going to be -1, -2, -3 in terms of weeks. I'm going to go enter. And so that's going to mean that my forecast is going to be 41.0 for that first week. For the second week, my exponential smoothing formula says take the forecast for t-1, or the previous time period, and add to that your exponential smoothing constant of 0.2 and multiply that times the forecast error, which is the difference between the actual of 26 for Boston and the forecast of 41. And that says that our forecast for time period 2 is going to be 38.0. So to finish that out, I can just copy those down, and then I don't want to move forward the average because that was only for the first week, okay? But I can copy across then for cells 3 through 13, okay? And oh, here's the issue, right? I forgot that in this I need to go ahead and cell reference that $B, $10, okay? And by doing that, that's always going to go back to the 0.2, okay? So then when I copy it across, there we go. All right, so you can see that how we can use that fixed cell reference to copy across. All right, and then you can see for exponential smoothing, then we have our running sum of forecast error, our MAD, our MAPE, and our tracking signal calculated exactly the same way they were for simple. Right, but that being said, we're pretty well done with what we're going to do, with what I'm going to show you, because you should be able to figure out the rest of the assignment from here, right? If you have questions, you can sure email me or send me your spreadsheet, and I'll take a look at your spreadsheet if you've got a specific question. And again, you have the solutions for the simple and the exponential smoothing to be able to go look at that PDF and make sure that your numbers are tracking correctly. So best of luck, and again, holler if you have questions.